What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Tom Aspinall will fight Alex Pereira for the interim title? The MMA world continues to discuss whether Tom Aspinall will in fact throw hands with Jon Jones next. And some people are praying for that fight to happen. But according to Chael Sonnen, he believes that the UFC is looking at having Aspinall defend the interim heavyweight crown against Alex Pereira. Interesting, huh? And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. For months now, there's been endless speculation about whether Aspinall and Jones will battle, but Bones has repeatedly made it clear that he's not interested in fighting Aspinall, prompting widespread calls that he's ducking the Irish star. Well, recently, Sonnen and his podcast co-host Daniel Cormier weighed in on who Aspinall could face next. The American Gangster relayed he thinks Poatan is a solid possibility. I've always believed, and this is nothing more than rumor, and I back this with a little evidence, but I've always maintained that Pereira's next fight will be against Tom Aspinall, and it'll be for the interim heavyweight title. I even believe I know when it's going to be. I believe it's going to be mid-January in California at UFC 311. Of course, Jones is booked to fight Stipe Miocic next weekend at UFC 209, and so Sonnen understands this planning will be contingent on what goes down at the event. I'm also hearing that Pereira's hand isn't going to be quite ready by December, but could be ready by January. And again, you remove Ankalaev, but you insert Aspinall. I just think there's some legs to that. Now, there has to be certain outcomes. Stipe comes in, he wins this, everything we just said is up in smoke. But I've seen Dana White play checkers. I've always seen Dana White be 2 and 3 steps ahead, and I'm telling you, I believe the direction they're looking to go if everything works out, Aspinall Pereira. Now, the interim belt would be on the line in an Aspinall-Pereira fight, only if the winner of Jones-Miocic does not retire. But do you think that'll happen? And do you see Poatan beating Aspinall to become a 3-division champion? Michael Chandler reacts to UFC rumors. A lot of fans and pundits have been in full-on panic mode on account of rumors firing around this week that Michael Chandler will not be able to battle Charles Oliveira at UFC 309. But according to Iron Mike, all the talk is just fake news. Recently, there was a rumor that started making the rounds that something was up with Chandler and that his rematch with DuBronx is in jeopardy. This continued despite the fact that some writers and journalists, like Ariel Helwani, reported they had not heard the fight was off. Well, more recently, a shredded-looking Chandler posted a video in which he declared he's fine.
Alright, by the way, the entire MMA world right now, I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. I've never missed weight. I've never pulled out of a fight. I work too damn hard to get injured or not show up for you guys. I'll see you there November 16th. Like always, the most reliable guy in the sport. God bless. See you at the top.
So clearly this is good news, not only because Chandler Oliveira 2 has all the makings of an action-packed scrap, but also because the lineup for UFC 309 isn't really stacked with a lot of all-star fights. But what do you think? Could Chandler be dealing with some sort of injury and he's just trying to cover up for it? And if he is dealing with something that could really diminish his performance at UFC 309, would you rather that he did drop out? Jon Jones breaks silence on retirement. There's been no shortage of people who predicted that the storied career of Jon Jones will come to an end next weekend at UFC 309. After all, Bones had repeatedly said that Stipe Miocic will likely be his last opponent, but with UFC 309 just days away, Jones has left the door open to more fights. As discussed earlier, hardly a day has gone by in the last few months without people talking about the possibility of Jones fighting Tom Aspinall in 2025. Dana White has continued to float the fight as a real possibility, even though Jones himself has said he's not interested in the matchup and that yes, retirement is likely. But in a recent interview with Ketone IQ, Jones admitted that if he rolls through Miocic, he'll probably be tempted to fight again.
You know, I feel like whether I retire or not will depend on this next performance. One of my main goals is to make it look really easy. And if I can accomplish that, then curiosity will keep me in the game just to see how far we can take this thing. But at the same time, I'm really happy with the career. It's been unbelievable, truly unbelievable. I work on looking in the mirror and saying to myself that I am enough, that I've accomplished enough, and that I don't really have anything else to prove.
Right.
Sometimes we can get caught up at work and just always needing more and more and more. And I'm really learning. I'm in the process of teaching myself to be proud of what I've already done.
You know these comments are only going to spike talk about Jones' next opponent, if he does beat Miocic. But what do you think? Do you see Bones dominating Miocic in the way that will motivate him to keep fighting? Or do you think the former champ could pose a much stiffer challenge for Jones than a lot of people think? Bo Nickal goes off on Sharabullet plus calls him out. Sharamagomedov may have electrified the galaxy at UFC 308 with his highlight reel KO, and the middleweights bandwagon has never been more jam-packed with fans. But recently, Bo Nickal made it clear he thinks he would cruise through Sharabullet. Yes, as you may recall, Magomedov dropped jaws around the world last month by putting away Armen Petrosyan with a double-spinning back fist. The Dagestani fighter already had a ton of hype around him on account of his undefeated record, but the win sent his stock to new heights. Speaking of undefeated fighters with a ton of hype, recently, Bo Nickal weighed in on Magomedov during his podcast. The decorated wrestler proceeded to claim he would destroy Sharabullet if they fought. I mean, it's like, I would like to fight him, but it's not a tough fight, and I would have to go to Abu Dhabi, or I would have to go to Saudi, which I would do, but I think it's not a tough fight. And also, the UFC probably doesn't want that right now. Maybe they would, maybe they don't give a crap. Go over to Saudi, make a quick check, 90 seconds, call it a day, fly back. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be fun though. It'll be interesting to see if Sharabullet actually responds to Nickal's comments here. It's safe to assume that Nickal feels this way because he's extremely confident he'll be able to take Magomedov down and quickly put him away. In that respect, it would be fascinating to see if the vaunted striker could negate the American's wrestling. What do you think? Do you see Nickal running through Sharabullet? Michael Chandler reveals UFC plans. Now, speaking of Michael Chandler, not only does he insist he's still fighting Charles Oliveira, he's planning to springboard off a win at UFC 309 into an awe-inspiring 2025. How so? Well, recently, Chandler spoke with Yahoo Sports' Kevin Iola. While discussing his future, the 38-year-old lightweight proceeded to outline some pretty interesting and ambitious goals. Not only does Chandler plan to avenge his 2021 loss to Do Bronx, he hopes to finally fight Conor McGregor, jump into a scrap with the lightweight king Islam Makhachev before fighting BMF champ Max Holloway. Here's what Chandler told Iola. I've already got it mapped out. Charles Oliveira, November 16th. I beat him, I become the #1 contender, and I'm sitting cage side watching Islam and Armen the first month or so of 2025. Then we go to Ramadan. I believe Islam wins, and Ramadan means he can't be in training camp in February or March. He won't be able to fight until June or July. If Conor comes back, I can fight Conor in March. Then I can fight Islam in June or July, beat him. By that time, Max Holloway would have moved to lightweight. He can fight and beat a top 5, becomes the #1 contender. Chandler versus Holloway at the end of 2025. I put my UFC lightweight belt on the line. He puts his BMF belt on the line. Oldest lightweight UFC champion. That's my story, that's my vision, and I'm sticking to it. Now, obviously, if all that goes down and Chandler wins all of his fights, it would make for an historic year. It would also entrench Chandler as one of the greatest lightweights of this generation. But even the biggest Chandler boosters have to admit a lot would have to fall into place for all of that to happen, aside from the fact that Mike has to win all those bouts. Case in point, McGregor has to actually return to action, and the timing of the expected Islam Makhachev-Armen Tsarukyan fight is still up in the air. But hey, you can't really blame the former Bellator champ for having that vision, right? Tom Aspinall reacts to Jon Jones' comments. Jon Jones recently claimed that Tom Aspinall hasn't actually done all that much yet in the UFC, before noting he isn't interested in fighting the interim heavyweight champion. Not surprisingly, Aspinall's camp has fired back. If you missed it, while talking to Kevin Iola from Yahoo Sports recently, Bones outlined why he isn't buzzed to fight Aspinall. More than likely not. I feel like Tom Aspinall is, I don't want to say nobody, but he hasn't proven anything. He hasn't done anything. I'm not here to gamble on someone else making a name off of me. Jones proceeded to say he would be more interested in fighting Alex Pereira next, before citing all the hype that was surrounding Johnny Walker at one juncture before he racked up multiple losses. Not only that, but while talking to the New York Post, the former light heavyweight king even said that Aspinall annoys him. Well, as noted, Aspinall's team has since shared out a must-see video, which showcases the ridiculously impressive UFC run he's put together so far. Now, Jones's latest comments about Aspinall have prompted a tidal wave of ducking allegations, but it seems like none of it is getting to Bones. Case in point, here's a recent post he shared out via X. At this point in my career, every decision is rooted in purpose. My journey isn't dictated by hype or outside opinions. It's about crafting a legacy that speaks for itself one step at a time. I'm here to do what's right for my career and my legacy, with a vision that's clear and unshakable, focused, driven, and in complete control of myself. The story continues, and it's unfolding exactly as I've envisioned. If you think the Aspinall ducking claims have spiked now, just wait and see what happens if Jones does end up fighting Pereira and then retires. Francis Ngannou's next MMA fight. It remains to be seen who Francis Ngannou will fight next, but one man who's made it clear he wants to face the feared slugger is one champ Anatoly Malykhin. Ngannou returned to the MMA cage last month and secured the PFL Super Fight Heavyweight crown by bombing out Renan Ferreira. While there's no shortage of people who still want to see Ngannou fight Jon Jones or Tom Aspinall next, we all know there's a better chance of Dana White never swearing again. Anatoly recently spoke with MMA Fighting, and while doing so, he relayed he wasn't impressed with the Predator's most recent victory. The middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight champion also called for a showdown with Ngannou. Of course I watched the fight, and actually I didn't see anything special. Nothing too impressive in that fight. He did not surprise me with anything. So I do think that 2025 could be the year for us to face each other. I'm ready to face him. He made a statement that he was the best fighter on the planet. I don't think so. He cannot and he shouldn't be saying that until he faces me. And MMA Fighting's Damon Martin also made this very solid point via social media. This is by far the best option for Ngannou with the UFC guys unavailable. Malykhin is legitimately a monster. Pretty much the best heavyweight fight available, not involving guys like Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, etc. Of course, this would require ONE and PFL working together, and it's not entirely clear if they'd be down for that, but is this a fight you want to see? And could we see it in 2025? Dana White fires fighters from the UFC. After UFC Edmonton last weekend, the UFC has decided to cut a heavyweight and a light heavyweight for lack of performance in their last couple of fights. Caio Machado and Rodrigo Nascimento were cut from the UFC today. Machado told media members before the event that he knew he was fighting for his job. Because he lost the fight, seeing him move on is not really a shock. Meanwhile, Rodrigo Nascimento also suffered a loss at UFC Edmonton, which led to him being cut from the roster. According to an account on Twitter, a significant purge is happening in the heavyweight division, with the UFC getting rid of all of the unconditioned dad-bod fighters for a new steroid era. Henry Cejudo and Mario Bautista got into a verbal altercation at a backstage UFC event. Here's the clip.
These are great.
You gotta say yes, though.
I gotta say yes. Want me to take your picture? You all
Can I say something? What? You can't be so damn boring, though. Because nobody's gonna fight you like that. I won't be boring. There's a lot. Listen, Olympic champ, flyweight champ, bantamweight champ. What have you done?
2 losses in a row, 7 fight wins.
Okay, but look who I lost to. At that time, the guy that was a current champ, and the other guy is now the former champ.
Yeah.
Are you gonna grab? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna sing against the cage like you did with Aldo?
I don't think you'll stay there, but it'll be.
I won't stay there.
Exactly.
I won't stay there. I have a meeting with Hunter, and whatever Hunter wants, we can do it.
Whatever Hunter wants.
Yeah, whatever Hunter wants, because you know what? I want it all Valley. Of course, there's a lot of people that I want. There's a big.
Take the fight.
You
and we'll do
haven't done anything.
Yeah, come on.
You haven't done anything.
We're stopping.
Olympic champ, flyweight champ.
Top comments. John is ducking Tom for sure. I'm not fighting in Australia. Sean would be lucky to be fighting DDP at all after Chimaev's performance. Take what you get before it's off the table altogether. Strickland has become the very thing he's openly claimed to detest. Never would have thought I'd see the day Jon Jones is clearly ducking someone. Tom has not proven anything. What the heck has Stipe proven in recent years? John has taken the easiest fight in the division. What a joke.